Hey everyone, it's Sound Guy Barry. Welcome back. I'd like to share a few thoughts with you regarding how I clean my audio cables that get really grungy after a show sometimes. We're in a dirty business and things can happen. Maybe you're doing an outdoor show that's dusty and dirty. Doing an outdoor show and it rains and you get mud everywhere that you got to clean up. Frequently, cables are down on stage or down on the dance floor and people spill drinks. I least prefer it when people spill drinks like Jägermeister. Or cables get gaffed down on the stage or on the floor. And sometimes people use tape that isn't the best tape and it leaves a glue residue. Or maybe worse, cables were wrapped up for a long period of time and taped up. And that tape has really solidified on the cables and it leaves a residue behind. Now, hopefully when people are gaffing cables down onto a surface, they're using proper gaff tape as opposed to just hardware store duct tape. Because proper gaff tape should adhere nicely but also be able to be removed without leaving a lot of residue. But sometimes people will cheap out or they just use what's available and they use hardware store duct tape. And in that case, the duct tape can often leave sticky residue behind. And if you don't get that stuff picked up off of the floor or the stage, you can make the people who run the venue a little less happy and leave a mess on the cables that is not real fun to clean up. So let's go through some of these situations and I'll talk about the products that I use to clean up the cable. In the case of tape or other sticky type glues that get on the cable, I've found that using WD-40 is really quite effective. So I'll take some WD-40 and I'll spray it onto a rag or a paper towel and then I'll run that down the cable a few times, and that generally does a pretty good job of removing all of that sticky glue type residue. Now the WD-40 itself is going to leave its own oily residue behind, and that's probably not the best stuff to leave on your rubber or plastic cables. So I'll follow it up with a household cleaner like this bottle of Awesome, which I got at the dollar store. You could use something like Simple Green or 409 or a typical household spray cleaner like this, which I'll follow up after the WD-40 to remove that residue. And then finally I'll wipe the cable off with just some clean water, a rag that's moistened with some water. I just wipe the cable off, make sure the cable is completely dried before winding it up and putting it away. Now, of course, if I don't have sticky glue type residue, but I have something that's more along the lines of Jägermeister or beer or other non-glue but nasty stuff on the cable, then I'll just use household spray cleaner followed up by water, wipe off the cable, clean it up. If it's just dust, a little bit of dust and dirt like mud, then I'll just use water. Again, I make sure that the cable is completely dry before winding it up. And I want to make sure that the electrical connectors in particular don't stay wet for too terribly long. If I want to clean up electrical connectors on the cable, stuff that I use is Deoxit, which is used for cleaning up fader controls or potentiometers, and it's also good for all sorts of electrical contacts. And so I'll give the contacts a spray with Deoxit, and then I'll often push this in and out of its connector a few times to remove any corrosion. And so those are the products that I use for cleaning up my cables. Like I said, I think that these products shouldn't stay on the cable surface for too terribly long because it's probably not going to do really good things for the plastics and rubbers. But I just use them for a brief period of time, wipe down the cable, and then I rinse it off with a different paper towel or rag that's just moistened with water. And then I'll finally take another paper towel or rag that's just dry and wipe the cable dry, make sure everything is dry and clean and ready for the next show. Of course, another thing is I try not to use super expensive cables, so if cables do get messed up during the show and they're in really bad shape, well, then I just chalk that cable off to the show and get another one. But fortunately for me, I've been able to get myself in a position where most of my shows are in pretty comfortable, clean environments without a whole mosh pit situation going on. But I've certainly had my share of really dirty, messy shows, and I know how that can take a toll on your equipment. I would also advise to the bands that come into my venue to please try to avoid spilling alcohol on the stage. And if you're going to spill alcohol, I personally would much rather it be something that's clear, like vodka. That's a lot easier to deal with. Anyway, I hope that you have great shows and clean cables, and I can catch you again on another episode of Sound Advice. Thanks for watching, friends. One more thing. I would appreciate it if you would help the YouTube statistics for this channel by hitting the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so that YouTube notifies you of new content coming down. And if you're so inspired and you thought this was just great, hit the thumbs up icon if you would, please. But whatever you choose to hit or not, I hope to see you again soon on the next episode of Sound Advice. Once again, my name is Barry, and I'm a sound engineer in the Minneapolis-St. Paul, Twin Cities area. And it is my pleasure to share with you the things that work best for me to provide you with great shows. And as always, I want your band to sound great.